Hello everybody and welcome to Checkmate. My name is Niels and today I would like to show you the 5th episode of the Paul Morphy series on this channel. In this game, Morphy plays again against James McConnell. He was an US-American lawyer and also lived in New Orleans and was a good friend of the Morphy family. And Morphy had 2 matchups already against him that I covered on this channel. And this is their 3rd one. So yeah, let's just dive into the game. So the game starts off with the move e4, e5, f4, e takes f4, and knight f3. So the main line of the king's gambit. We have g5, and we already had this move in this series on episode 3. And in this game, bishop c4 was played. But here we have a different idea. Here white goes for the move h4, just attacking the pawn, building some more pressure on it, and black goes g4, so just attacking the knight, and white goes with knight e5, nicely centralizing this knight. And now this pawn is attacked twice also, so black must defend it, and black goes for h5, just nicely covering up the pawn. And now we have bishop c4, so going for rapid development and also attacking f7 in the process with the bishop and the knight. So black has to somehow defend this pawn and goes for rook h7, just nicely covering. And we have d4, just taking some more space in the center, as it's probably a good idea. We have d6, attacking the knight, and we have knight d3. So instead of going knight d3, there's also this interesting idea of just taking the pawn on f7. And after rook takes and bishop takes, we would have king takes and bishop takes f4. And Morphy would basically go on through this middle game where he traded his bishop, his knight, for rook and a pawn. Usually you would like to avoid trading 2 light pieces for a rook, because the rook is usually not as powerful as the 2 light pieces. But in this case, because of the bad positioning of this king and ways for white to immediately attack the king, so in this position it's actually good for white to go on to this trade, because the computer claims an advantage of 0.8. So white has so many ideas of attacking the king, maybe going for castles, getting the rook onto the open file, and so many other ideas. So this is already kind of hard for black to play, and I could imagine that such positions can really fall apart fastly for black. But instead we got knight e3, as already mentioned, just retreating the knight to say square and going for this pawn here. And we have f3, so just advancing the pawn and trying to open up white's position. Morphy doesn't want to open up the position and goes for g3. Now black has this nice passed pawn that could maybe become dangerous in the future. It's also a protected passed pawn, and it's just 2 squares away from queening. At the moment, it's not that simple to queen, but you must keep in mind that you could have problems if you go to an endgame, let's say, and black is able to just get this massive pressure with this passed pawn and keep your king or some piece occupied there to block the pawn. So in the next few moves, we just got some development in for both sides. We have knight c6, we have knight f4, we have bishop d7, knight c3, nicely developing the knight. We have knight f6, and we have bishop e3. So in this position, both players have chances, and it's about equal. We have knight e7, and we have king f2. So nicely blocking this pawn and getting the king into the game. Now we have c6, just taking some more space up in the center and controlling any white pawn push in this regard. Another idea of this king f2 move was also to get some space for the rook. So Morphy goes for rook e1, just nicely developing the rook and getting it on the same file as the king. We have bishop g7, and this move already is not so good for black. Black should consider other moves, maybe like knight Fg8 or something, but it's very hard to play this position for black, because now we have just e5, busting open the center. We have d takes e5, d takes e5, and knight fd5, just getting a knight out of the attack of the pawn. Now we have bishop takes d5 and c takes d5. And in this position, white could just be up a pawn with the move knight takes d5. We have knight takes d5 and again knight takes d5. And it's also quite important that you recapture with the knight, because if you don't, if you recapture with queen, you just get bishop c6, and suddenly this queen is just attacked, and the game is just equal now. The pawns are exactly the same, and white's initiative just goes away. There's not much you can do to hold some advantage or just to continue the attack. But this knight takes wasn't played in the game. Instead, Morphy went for bishop c5, just getting the bishop to a more active square. And we have bishop c6. And this is not the right move. Black could have gotten into a better position, for example, with rook c8. And now we would have to play queen d5. Because if you go for something like bishop a3, just trying to stay on this diagonal, we would have queen b6 with check. And this is a big problem now for white. You would have to, you must just give up the rook, because otherwise your problems just remain the same or get even worse. And in this position you would lose material. But if you say you go for, let's say, king f1, trying to step out of the check, then knight f5, and you can see that black has a massive attack on the white position, and the advantage for black is just huge here. So this rook c8 idea was just the best idea for black, because after queen d5, queen d4, we would just have this position, and both colors could play a normal game of chess. Okay, but after bishop c6, we have b4. And b4 is not the best move. The best move would have been queen d3, attacking the rook. So we would have rook h6, e6, and black would probably go f5. Because if you just take, we would get knight takes, attacking both the queen and the bishop. So black would have to sacrifice the material for not losing their queen, or just a plain bishop, for example. So maybe we would get a position like this with f5, and maybe just rook ad1 and playing this position for white. And this would have been a pretty, let's say, comfortable position to play for white. Yeah, but Morphy went for b4, and we have b6, just attacking the bishop. We have bishop takes e7, and we have queen takes e7. So it's a very sharp position. Also, it's important to mention that if you recapture with the king, we get queen d3 with the same idea, attacking the rook. And after rook h6, we would get b5 now, just attacking the bishop. And also this position would have been very comfortable for white. So after queen takes e7, we get knight f takes d5 and queen b7. And this move loses the game for black. I will show you in a minute why. The best continuation for black would have been, instead of going for queen b7, just to take the bishop. And after bishop takes d5, knight takes d5, we would get something like queen d8, knight f6 with check, bishop takes, pawn takes with check. And after king f8, white could go into this endgame with queen takes e8, rook takes e8, rook ad1, rook c8, and something like rook e7. Just, white could just go into this active rook endgame and would have gotten a small advantage. Just more active play. The rooks are just monsters, and they can just join the 7th rank together and cause some problems for black. But in the game, we didn't get this. We just got queen b7. And this is now losing. And Morphy just shows why. And this is also such an amazing line that he shows, because it's also the main line of Stockfish nowadays. So it's just incredible to see that a player like Morphy had such strong capabilities just to find the best moves that are in the position. And you can try to pause the video this time and try if you can see the combination that Morphy played, while I give you a couple of seconds. So the move that you had to find was knight f6 with check. And the knight has to be accepted. So we get bishop takes, e takes, and now king f8, the only move. We get queen d6 with check. So again, king g8, the only move. And now, an just interesting move, rook e7, attacking the queen. And black is in trouble now, because you have to keep an eye on this bishop. And after queen c8, we just get rook c7, and we have a double attack on the bishop and the queen. So black had to play something. He played queen f5, and we just got queen takes c6. So nicely getting some material. And black went for active counterplay with queen takes c2. And you would imagine that this position is scary for white, but it isn't scary at all, because after king e3, white has no problems. You can't go rook e8 because the queen covers. So black tried rook d8, trying to go for some attack with the queen and the rook. But now Morphy again played an unbelievable move, and I would say it's just an exceptional move, a very interesting, strong move. And if you try, and if you want, you can try to find it. I will give you again a couple of seconds. So the move that you had to find is rook d1. And yeah, what can black do in this position? So your rook is attacked, and yeah, let's play the easy move. Rook takes d1. Then you get mate at d1 with queen e8, and it's checkmate. So yeah, that's not an option. So what can you play? Let's say you try to defend. Rook f8. This is not much better either, because you just get rook c8, and you have so much pressure on this position. And the best thing that the computer finds is something like rook h8, rook takes. Now you can't retake, because then you get mated. So you would have to go king h7, and we would have rook takes. Now again, you can't retake, because then you just get mated somewhere. I think like this. Yeah. So you would have to go to g6, but also this is checkmate in a couple of moves. So the best thing that you can actually do is just take the rook and play this middle game down the queen, and yeah, but also this position is completely resignable. So yeah, after rook d1, just hanging a rook, the game was over, and James resigned in this position. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I will see you in the next one. See you.